The 1960s were a golden age for American automotive design. Muscle cars roared, personal luxury coupes dazzled, and innovations flowed freely. But even with bold styling and cutting-edge features, some cars just couldn't connect with buyers. These 9 stunning cars looked like winners on the showroom floor, but flopped spectacularly in sales and reputation. Here's a look at the most beautiful failures of the 60s.
Dear viewer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support.
Number 9. When the 1963 Buick Riviera first appeared in showrooms, it wasn't just another new Buick. It was an entirely new idea from General Motors. This was Buick's attempt to step into a growing but still niche segment, the personal luxury coupe. Competitors like Ford's Thunderbird had already shown there was a market for style, status, and a dose of performance in a 2-door package. But Buick's move was bold and, at least at first, risky. Design, an instant classic. The Riviera's styling was the work of GM's design chief Bill Mitchell, who envisioned a car that blended American presence with European sophistication. The result was stunning. Crisp, knife-edged lines with none of the exaggerated fins or heavy chrome still lingering from the 1950s. A formal, tailored stance, low and wide, with a distinctive Coke bottle curve in the side profile. Concealed headlights hidden behind clamshell doors, a sleek, futuristic touch. Minimal overhangs and a near-perfect proportion between hood, roof, and trunk. Critics and car enthusiasts alike praised it as one of the most beautiful American cars ever built. Even today, the 1963 Riviera is considered a design benchmark. Under the skin, power with poise. Buick gave the Riviera serious credentials to back its looks. Standard power came from the 401 cubic inch nailhead V8 with 325 horsepower. Optional was the 425 cubic inch V8 with 340 horsepower, making the Riviera quick for its size. Power steering, power brakes, and an available full range of luxury options made it as comfortable as it was stylish. The Riviera rode on a modified Buick frame, shorter than the big Le Sabres, which gave it tighter handling without losing the trademark Buick smoothness. The market problem. And yet, in its debut year, Buick sold only 40,000 Rivieras. Respectable for a brand new model, but far below the potential GM envisioned. Why? Buick's image gap. In 1963, Buick was still seen as a solid, upper-middle-class brand, dependable, conservative, even a little stodgy. The Riviera styling was elegant and European, the kind of design people expected from Cadillac or even a high-end imported coupe. For some buyers, Buick and sports luxury didn't quite click together yet. A small luxury coupe market. The Thunderbird, the Riviera's main competitor, was selling well, but it had been on the market since 1958, and Ford had carefully cultivated its image. In 1963, the idea of a luxury 2-door coupe was still a niche choice compared to the big sedans most affluent buyers preferred. Price point. Starting around $4,300, roughly $43,000 today, the Riviera wasn't cheap. It was positioned between a Thunderbird and a Cadillac Coupe de Ville, which meant some buyers just stretched their budget a bit further and went for the Cadillac name instead. Conservative Buick dealers. Many Buick dealers were used to selling family sedans and station wagons, not sleek luxury coupes. Some salesmen didn't know how to market the Riviera's sporty sophistication, so it didn't get the push it needed. Reception. Praise without the rush. Motor Trend and other automotive magazines heaped praise on the Riviera. It was lauded for its restrained styling, solid build quality, and refined driving manners. But praise in print doesn't immediately translate to lines outside Buick showrooms. Even celebrities and executives who bought Rivieras, Frank Sinatra being among them, didn't create the kind of halo effect Buick might have hoped for. It wasn't that the Riviera was ignored, it was simply ahead of its time in positioning. Legacy. Appreciation in retrospect. Over the next few years, Buick refined the Riviera's formula. By the mid-1960s, sales picked up, and the model carved out its place as one of GM's most stylish offerings. Today, the 1963 Riviera is regarded as one of the high points of post-war American automotive design. In hindsight, its slow start wasn't a reflection of flaws in the car, it was a mismatch between bold product and brand perception. Buick had built something magnificent, but it took buyers a few years to realize that this elegant machine could be their kind of car. If you like, I can also prepare a comparative section showing how the 1963 Riviera stacked up against the 1963 Thunderbird in styling, performance, and buyer demographics, which would help illustrate exactly why Buick's first-year sales lagged. That could make this lecture even richer.
Number 8. When Studebaker unveiled the Avanti in 1962, it seemed like a miracle for the struggling South Bend automaker. This wasn't just a new car, it was a statement. Studebaker could still be daring, relevant, and competitive. Designed to inject life into the brand's fading fortunes, the Avanti brought style, performance, and futuristic thinking to a company often associated with conservative designs. The Avanti's appearance was unlike anything else on American roads in 1962. Legendary industrial designer Raymond Loewy, known for the Coca-Cola bottle redesign, the Greyhound Sena Cruiser bus, and many Studebaker models, was given just 40 days to conceive the Avanti's look. Working with a small design team in Palm Springs, California, Loewy delivered something striking: fiberglass body to save weight and avoid costly steel retooling. No traditional grille, just a smooth, aerodynamic front end. Coke bottle curves along the sides, flowing into a crisp tail with inset taillights. Wraparound rear glass for a panoramic look. It looked sleek, sophisticated, and decidedly modern, making even the Corvette seem conservative by comparison. The Avanti wasn't just a styling exercise. Studebaker gave it real performance credentials. Standard 289 cubic inch V8 with optional supercharging for up to 290 horsepower. Disc brakes on all four wheels, a first for an American production car. Fiberglass construction for corrosion resistance and weight savings. A 4-seat Grand Touring interior with aviation-inspired gauges and bucket seats. In road tests, the supercharged Avanti could reach 168 miles per hour in special Bonneville trim, unheard of for a Studebaker. Unfortunately, Studebaker's ambitions outpaced its resources. Fiberglass body challenges. Studebaker contracted outside suppliers for the fiberglass panels, but early batches didn't fit properly. Assembly lines slowed as workers struggled with inconsistent panel quality. Production delays. The Avanti was supposed to hit showrooms in spring 1962, but delays meant many dealers didn't get cars until well into the 1963 model year. Buyers who had placed orders grew impatient and canceled. Quality control. Fit and finish issues, misaligned panels, and leaky weather seals hurt the car's reputation right out of the gate. The dealer network weakness. Even if production had gone smoothly, Studebaker faced another hurdle. Its dealer network was shrinking as the company's financial troubles deepened. Many dealers simply didn't have the confidence or the capital to aggressively promote the Avanti. Some buyers who might have wanted an Avanti didn't have a local Studebaker dealer at all. Without a strong distribution and service network, Studebaker couldn't sustain momentum. Studebaker had hoped to build 20,000 Avantis in the first year. They sold only about 4,600. Demand existed, but the company couldn't produce fast enough, and interest cooled quickly. By late 1963, Studebaker's U.S. production was shutting down in South Bend, and the Avanti was discontinued, barely 18 months after its debut. The Avanti was too advanced for its circumstances. Design, timeless enough that later Avanti 2 models, built by a different company after Studebaker's collapse, kept nearly the same shape into the 1980s. Engineering, four-wheel disc brakes and fiberglass construction would later become industry norms. Brand impact. While it didn't save Studebaker, it left the company's final years with a moment of boldness. Today, the 1962-33 Avanti is a cult classic. Collectors love it for its rarity, its lowy lines, and its last stand symbolism for Studebaker. But in 1962, it was a victim of timing, limited resources, and the painful reality that even a great car can't rescue a collapsing automaker. If you'd like, I can also create a side-by-side comparison of the 1962 Avanti with the 1963 Corvette Stingray, showing exactly how the Avanti was more futuristic in some ways, yet completely outmatched in corporate muscle. That would really bring the lecture home.
Number 7. When the 1964 Mercury Marauder hit the market, it wasn't a new nameplate, but rather an evolution of a performance subseries that Mercury had been quietly nurturing since the early 60s. This was Mercury's attempt to inject racing DNA into its lineup. A big, sleek, V8-powered machine with an eye on both showroom appeal and the high-speed banked ovals of NASCAR. The Marauder was essentially a performance-oriented variant of Mercury's full-size models, distinguished by a more aerodynamic roofline. Fastback, slantback roof shared with Ford's Galaxy 500 Sports hardtop, designed to reduce drag for NASCAR competition. Long, low proportions that gave it a muscular, road-hugging look. Clean side profiles with restrained chrome, less flashy than many contemporaries, more purposeful. Available in both two-door hardtop and four-door hardtop versions. This was a car built to look fast, even standing still, and that was no accident. NASCAR racing in the early 60s heavily influenced showroom designs, and Mercury wanted to capitalize on the win on Sunday, sell on Monday philosophy. Mercury made sure the Marauder could back up its appearance. Engines ranged from a solid 390 cubic inch V8 to the mighty 427 cubic inch FE V8, rated up to 425 horsepower in racing trim. 4-speed manual or automatic transmissions were available. Heavy-duty suspension and performance gearing were optional for buyers who wanted genuine speed. In NASCAR form, Marauders were competitive, driven by stars like Parnelli Jones and Ned Jarrett. On paper, this was Ford Motor Company muscle in Mercury clothing. Plenty of horsepower, race-inspired aerodynamics, and a full-size body to command the road. The identity problem. So why didn't the 1964 Marauder become a breakout hit? 3 main reasons. Mercury's image conflict. In the early 1960s, Mercury was positioned as an upscale alternative to Ford, with a focus on comfort, refinement, and a touch of luxury. The Marauder's NASCAR image clashed with Mercury's reputation for quiet, family-friendly cruisers. Buyers looking for raw performance gravitated toward Ford's Galaxy 500 or Pontiac's Catalina Bonneville instead. Internal competition from Ford. The Ford Galaxy 500 Fastback was virtually the same car underneath, but it was better known, more heavily promoted for performance, and priced slightly lower. Even within Ford's own corporate family, the Marauder had trouble standing out. Marketing ambiguity. Mercury didn't fully commit to selling the Marauder as a performance flagship or as a stylish luxury coupe. It ended up somewhere in the middle. Ads were inconsistent, sometimes emphasizing speed, other times comfort. That muddled message kept it from resonating strongly with any one group of buyers. Sales performance.
The Marauder sold modestly in 1964, far behind rivals in the performance full-size segment. Buyers who wanted luxury chose other Mercury models, like the Park Lane. Buyers who wanted speed often stuck with Ford's better-known and slightly cheaper Galaxy 500. The Marauder simply didn't have a clear niche. Ironically, the Marauder's biggest successes came not in showrooms, but on the track. Its fastback roofline gave it a legitimate aerodynamic advantage in NASCAR, helping Ford and Mercury teams stay competitive against Chrysler's Hemi-powered Plymouths and Dodges. In racing circles, the Marauder name had credibility, but that didn't translate to mass-market sales. By the late 1960s, the Marauder name was shelved, only to be revived later in the muscle car era and again in the early 2000s, each time with a performance-oriented image. Today, the 1964 Marauder is appreciated as one of the better-looking big Mercurys of the decade, a blend of style and speed that deserved a bigger audience. But in its time, it was a victim of corporate overlap, brand image confusion, and a market that didn't know quite what to make of a luxury-labeled NASCAR contender. If you want, I can also put together a side-by-side visual and spec comparison of the 1964 Marauder and the 1964 Ford Galaxy 500 Fastback, showing just how similar they were mechanically and how that hurt Mercury's ability to sell its own version. That would really illustrate the stuck-in-the-middle problem.
Number 6. When the 1961 Lincoln Continental debuted, it was nothing short of a design revolution. Lincoln was coming off years of bulky, over-styled models that had failed to dent Cadillac's dominance in the luxury market. Under the leadership of Elwood Engel, Lincoln's design team threw out the chrome-heavy excess of the late 50s and replaced it with something radically clean, modern, and timeless. And at the top of that lineup sat one of the rarest, most audacious configurations in American automotive history, the four-door convertible. The 1961 Continental was all about restraint and proportion. Crisp, slab-sided body panels with razor-sharp edges and minimal ornamentation. Suicide rear doors, rear-hinged, for a dramatic, limousine-like entrance. A formal yet low stance with a beltline that ran straight and uninterrupted from nose to tail. The convertible version kept all the elegance of the sedan, but added the thrill of open-air luxury, something no other American luxury brand offered in a four-door configuration at the time. It looked presidential because it was. Lincoln convertibles would serve in the U.S. presidential motorcade throughout the 1960s. Building a four-door convertible was far from simple. Without a fixed roof, the car's long body needed extra chassis reinforcement to prevent flexing, adding weight and complexity. The power-operated soft top had to fold neatly into the trunk while also coordinating with the rear-hinged back doors. This required an elaborate ballet of relays, motors, and hydraulic rams. The rear windows were frameless, and they had to lower automatically in sequence with the top's operation. The result was mechanically fascinating and a nightmare to assemble and service. Under the hood, the 1961 Continental carried a 430 cubic inch Mel V8, delivering smooth, effortless torque. The ride was plush, steering was overboosted for fingertip control, and the cabin was trimmed in the finest materials Lincoln could source. Power windows, power seats, and thick carpeting came standard. This wasn't a sports car, it was a rolling statement of quiet authority. Here's where the problems began. Expensive to build. The four-door convertible's complex top mechanism and reinforced body made it far more labor-intensive than the sedan. Low volume. Only around 3,000 units were built in 1961. In later years, production dropped even further, with just over 2,000 made annually. High price tag. At nearly $6,000 in 1961, about $62,000 today, it was one of the most expensive American cars on the market. Every car built was essentially hand-finished, and profitability was slim at best. Owning a four-door convertible came with quirks.
The heavy top and hydraulics were prone to leaks, electrical faults, and misalignment. Extra chassis weight meant modest acceleration and higher fuel consumption. The open body structure lacked the solidity of the sedan, and cowl shake was noticeable over rough roads. This was a car for buyers who valued style over practicality and who had the patience and wallet to deal with its eccentricities. The end of the line. Lincoln persisted with the four-door convertible through the 1967 model year, making small improvements along the way. But changing safety regulations, combined with high production costs and limited demand, finally killed the concept. After 1967, no American manufacturer would build another mass-produced four-door convertible. Today, the 1961-1967 Lincoln Continental four-door convertible is revered as one of the most elegant cars in American history. Cultural impact, immortalized in film, television, and even as a presidential limousine. Collector status, highly sought after, with values reflecting both rarity and design significance. Design influence. Its clean, formal lines helped redefine American luxury design in the 1960s. The 1961 Continental convertible was never a volume car. It was a rolling statement of prestige and craftsmanship. In hindsight, that may be why it's remembered so fondly. It was the kind of daring, expensive idea that could only come from a moment in time when American luxury brands still believed in building something simply because it was beautiful. If you want, I can follow this with a production year breakdown showing how the four-door convertible's numbers declined from 1961 to 1967, which would illustrate how exclusivity became both its strength and its undoing. That would make the lecture even more complete.
Number 5. When the redesigned 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix debuted, it marked the launch of GM's new G-body platform, essentially a stretched A-body designed to give the personal luxury coupe market something fresh. This was Pontiac's answer to the Ford Thunderbird, Buick Riviera, and Oldsmobile Toronto. The GP's mission? Blend Pontiac performance with executive-level style. In top SJ trim, it had the looks and muscle to back it up. But as we'll see, timing and brand overlap kept it from shining as brightly as it could have. The 1969 Grand Prix was a masterstroke from Pontiac design chief John DeLorean and GM stylists Jack Humbert. A hood so long it looked like it belonged on a yacht. 118 inches of wheelbase, with most of that ahead of the driver. Sharp-edged lines that made the car look aggressive yet formal. Minimal chrome, letting the shape do the talking. A tunneled grille and quad headlamps that gave the car a menacing, road-commanding face. The roofline flowed into a short, formal rear deck, the long hood, short deck formula executed to perfection. It was athletic yet sophisticated, a car you could drive to a business meeting and to a drag strip. Power and performance. The SJ trim was where things got serious. Standard 428 cubic inch V8 with 370 horsepower and massive torque. Optional high output tuning for even more punch. Heavy-duty suspension and upgraded brakes to handle the power. Standard 3-speed automatic or optional 4-speed manual. A plush interior with bucket seats, simulated wood, and Pontiac's signature wrap-around cockpit dash. The result was a big coupe that could cruise in comfort but still sprint to 60 miles per hour in under 7 seconds. Impressive for a personal luxury car in 1969. 1969 was peak muscle car era. Pontiac's own lineup was overflowing with performance icons. GTO, the original muscle car, still hugely popular. Firebird, Pontiac's pony car, competing with the Mustang and Camaro. Le Mans and Tempest, offering mid-size performance at lower prices. The Grand Prix SJ sat in a strange middle ground. It was faster and more stylish than a basic Bonneville, but heavier and more expensive than a GTO or Firebird. Buyers who wanted raw speed leaned toward the muscle cars. Those who wanted pure luxury leaned toward Cadillac or Buick Riviera.
overshadowed by its siblings. Pontiac's marketing muscle was heavily behind the GTO and Firebird in 1969. These cars defined Pontiac's youthful, performance-driven image, and that left the Grand Prix SJ without a clear headline. While it offered a unique blend of speed and luxury, most of Pontiac's advertising dollars and enthusiast attention were elsewhere. Enthusiasts saw it as too big compared to the GTO. Luxury buyers saw it as too sporty compared to Buick or Oldsmobile offerings. It became a niche choice for those who wanted exactly that mix, but niche sales don't build legends in their own time. Despite the overshadowing, the 1969 Grand Prix sold reasonably well, thanks to its striking redesign. Over 112,000 units across all trims. The SJ represented the top of the range, but it never reached the cultural impact of Pontiac's smaller, flashier models. By the early 1970s, insurance rates, emissions regulations, and the oil crisis would reshape the personal luxury market, and the Grand Prix would lean even more toward comfort over performance. Today, the 1969 Grand Prix SJ is admired for its clean, aggressive styling and the sheer audacity of its proportions. Collectors love its balance of speed, comfort, and rarity compared to GTOs of the same era. But in 1969, it was a victim of Pontiac's own success. A strong performer with a clear design identity, yet one that couldn't quite outshine the halo cars sitting next to it in the showroom. If you'd like, I can also put together a 1969 Pontiac lineup comparison chart showing price, horsepower, and target buyer for the SJ, GTO, and Firebird, which would make it crystal clear why the Grand Prix had trouble standing out. That would make this lecture even sharper.
Number 4. The Dodge Dart nameplate had launched in 1960 as Dodge's new entry in the full-size field, slotting below the Polara, but still large enough to compete with Chevrolet Impala, Ford Galaxy, and Plymouth Fury. By 1962, Dodge had ambitious plans to keep it fresh and competitive, but a last-minute corporate decision would throw those plans off course. In late 1960, Chrysler president L.L. Colbert became convinced, based on rumored Chevrolet plans, that GM would dramatically downsize its full-size cars for 1962. Believing Dodge should get ahead of the curve, Chrysler engineers were ordered to shrink the Dart's wheelbase from a traditional 122 inches to 116 inches and reduce overall length by nearly a foot. The problem? Chevrolet never actually downsized the Impala in 1962. Instead, GM introduced an intermediate, the Chevy 2, leaving its big cars full-size. Dodge suddenly found itself selling what was technically a mid-size car in a full-size price bracket. The 1962 Dart 440, not to be confused with the later engine size, was part of a three-trim lineup: 330, 440, and top-trim Polara 500. The Dart 440 offered angular, straight-edged lines that were a departure from the rounded forms of the late 50s, a clean, slightly formal roofline with wide C-pillars, just enough chrome to convey upscale intent without going overboard, proportions that, while neat, looked small next to the sweeping, long-bodied Galaxies and Impalas in showrooms. It was handsome in isolation, but side by side with true full-size competitors, it looked compact. Mechanically, the Dart 440 was no slouch. A range of engines from the dependable 225 slant 6 to the robust 361 and 383 cubic inch V8s. Push-button TorqueFlite automatic transmission, a Chrysler hallmark. Comfortable interiors with available two-tone vinyl, power steering, and air conditioning. It drove well. Lighter weight made handling snappier, but for the traditional big car buyer, size still mattered more than agility. Here's where the Dart stumbled hardest. Dodge loyalists expected a full-size sedan for their money, something with road presence and stretch-out space. Chevrolet and Ford buyers saw it as smaller but not cheaper than the competition.
Plymouth was also launching a similarly downsized Fury, leading to internal cannibalization. The result? Buyers walked into Dodge showrooms expecting a big car, saw the new Dart, and often left for another brand. Sales for the 1962 Dart fell well below expectations. The 440 trim tried to split the difference between budget and luxury, but without clear positioning, it appealed to neither group strongly. Dodge's share of the big car market slipped, and dealers grew frustrated. By 1963, Dodge scrambled to stretch the Dart's bodywork into a larger Polara, while positioning the Dart name towards smaller, more affordable models, setting the stage for the 1963-66 compact Dart most people remember today. The 1962 Dart 440 is remembered now as a stylish, well-engineered car that got caught in a strategic miscalculation. One of the last in-between Dodges before the Dart name shifted to compact duty. A collectible oddity for Mopar fans, especially when equipped with big block V8 power. It wasn't the Dart's engineering that doomed it, it was a case of being in the wrong size class at the wrong moment. A reminder that market timing can make or break even a good car. If you'd like, I can follow this with a side-by-side spec comparison between the 1962 Dart 440 and a 1962 Chevy Impala, which would show exactly how Dodge's big car had unintentionally turned into a midsizer overnight. That really makes the mismatch crystal clear. Number 3. When the Corvette Monza was introduced for the 1960 model year, it looked like something straight out of Europe. Sleek, compact, and rear-engined, a layout almost unheard of among American cars. Chevrolet was stepping into new territory to appeal to buyers who wanted economy without sacrificing style or fun. Design and engineering, ahead of its time. The Corvaire's rear-engine, air-cooled flat-six was a radical departure from the front-engine V8s that dominated the U.S. market. The Monza trim added sporty touches, two-door coupe body style, bucket seats, and better interior appointments. The car's profile was low-slung and aerodynamic, with smooth lines that made it stand out amid the sea of large, heavy American cars. Chevrolet pitched it as a car for the post-war European sensibility, affordable, fun, and efficient. Technically, the Corvair featured independent rear suspension, which was an advanced feature compared to many contemporaries' live rear axles. Performance and appeal. The Corvair Monza offered a 2.3-liter, 145 cubic inch, flat-six engine with 80 horsepower in early models, making it competitive in performance with European imports. Manual and automatic transmission options. Sporty handling and responsive steering, unusual for an American compact. Good fuel economy and a quiet ride, thanks to the rear engine layout. The Monza was seen as Chevrolet's answer to the growing popularity of European imports, like the Volkswagen Beetle and the Porsche 356, but with a distinctly American twist. The safety controversy. Ralph Nader's unsafe at any speed. Despite its technical innovations and appealing design, the Corvair's reputation took a dramatic hit in the mid-1960s when Ralph Nader published his seminal book Unsafe at Any Speed in 1965. Nader's key criticism focused on the Corvair's handling. The early models featured a swing-axle rear suspension that could cause tuck-under and sudden oversteer in sharp turns. At high speeds or during emergency maneuvers, the rear wheels could lose traction, leading to loss of control. Nader argued that GM had designed the car with this flaw and had not adequately addressed safety concerns. The publicity was damaging. Although later Corvair models, 1965 and onward, were redesigned with a safer rear multi-link suspension, the reputation had already been tarnished. Impact on sales and legacy. Initial sales were strong. The Corvair filled a new niche and attracted buyers looking for a sporty, economical alternative. However, the negative press caused a steep drop-off in consumer confidence. GM discontinued the Corvair after the 1960 model year. The controversy spurred government action, including the passage of the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act of 1966, leading to the creation of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA. Balanced assessment. Many automotive experts today agree that while the early Corvair's suspension design was less forgiving than typical American cars, it was no more dangerous than many contemporaries' vehicles when driven responsibly. The Corvair was groundbreaking. It introduced rear-engine architecture, air-cooled engines, and independent suspension to the U.S. market. Its styling remains admired for its clean looks and European flair. The 1960 Chevrolet Corvair Monza symbolizes both innovation and caution. It was a car that dared to break norms, but suffered from flaws and external scrutiny that profoundly affected its fate. Its legacy lives on, as a design icon with undeniable charm, as a catalyst for safety reforms that shape the modern automotive landscape, as a reminder that bold engineering must always be paired with rigorous safety and communication. If you want, I can also prepare a technical comparison of the Corvair's suspension and handling characteristics versus contemporaries like the Volkswagen Beetle and Ford Falcon, which would deepen understanding of its real-world risks and advantages. That would round out this lecture perfectly.
Number 2. The mid-1960s was the golden era for muscle cars. The American pony car wars were in full swing, and Ford's Mercury division aimed to carve out a more upscale, performance-oriented niche with the Cyclone GT. The car combined aggressive styling, respectable power, and some unique Mercury touches. But it ultimately fell victim to overlapping products within Ford's own lineup and confused consumer perception. The 1966 Cyclone GT was distinguished by a sleek fastback roofline that gave it a dynamic aerodynamic profile, bold styling cues such as quad headlights, a blacked-out grille, and sporty badging that set it apart from standard Montegos and Fairlanes, aggressive hood scoops and optional racing stripes that emphasized its muscle credentials, larger, more upscale proportions compared to the Mustang, giving it a more substantial road presence. The Cyclone GT was intended to blend sportiness with sophistication, appealing to buyers who wanted muscle car performance but with a bit more luxury. Under the hood, the Cyclone GT offered a range of potent V8 engines. Standard was the 289 cubic inch V8, but buyers could opt for the 390 cubic inch FE big block V8, producing upwards of 320 horsepower. The car featured upgraded suspension and performance handling packages to complement its power. Transmission choices included a 4-speed manual and a 3-speed automatic. This powertrain made the Cyclone GT competitive with many muscle cars of the era, offering strong acceleration and confident high-speed stability. Despite the strengths, the Cyclone GT faced stiff competition from within Ford's own family of cars. The Ford Mustang was an instant cultural phenomenon, attracting younger buyers with its fresh design, affordable price, and sporty character. The Ford Fairlane GT offered similar performance and style at a lower price. Mercury's brand image was more upscale and traditional, making it harder to convince younger muscle buyers to pay a premium for a Mercury badge. Because of this internal overlap, many potential buyers simply chose the more popular Mustang or the less expensive Fairlane, leaving the Cyclone GT caught in the middle. The Cyclone GT was priced higher than comparable Mustangs and Fairlanes, which meant buyers expected something truly special. However, Mercury was perceived more as a luxury or mid-level brand, rather than a pure performance brand. Buyers interested in muscle cars often gravitated toward brands and models with clearer performance credentials and better established reputations. As a result, sales of the Cyclone GT were modest compared to the Mustang and Fairlane, and it struggled to establish a distinct identity.
Today, the 1966 Mercury Cyclone GT is appreciated by muscle car enthusiasts as a stylish and powerful alternative to the Mustang and Fairlane, a car that offered big block performance with a more refined image, a somewhat underrated player in the muscle car wars, overshadowed at the time by flashier or more affordable rivals. Collectors value the Cyclone GT for its relative rarity and unique place in Ford's muscle car history. The 1966 Mercury Cyclone GT perfectly illustrates how brand positioning and market timing can be as critical as engineering and styling. Despite its sleek design and strong performance, it was ultimately a victim of Ford's internal competition and the Mustang's sweeping popularity. If you'd like, I can prepare a detailed comparison showing how the Cyclone GT stacked up against the 1966 Mustang GT and Ford Fairlane GT in terms of specs, price, and buyer demographics, which would highlight exactly why it was overshadowed. That would add more depth to this lecture.
Number 1. When Oldsmobile introduced the Starfire as a personal luxury coupe in 1961, the goal was clear: compete with Cadillac, Buick Riviera, and Ford Thunderbird by offering a high-style, high-price, and performance-oriented coupe under the Oldsmobile name. By 1963, the Starfire had evolved into one of the most striking cars in Oldsmobile's lineup, featuring lavish chrome and futuristic, rocket-age detailing that echoed the optimism of the space age. Design and styling, a space-age showstopper. The 1963 Starfire was a visual feast, reflecting the era's fascination with aerospace and jet technology. Rocket-inspired chrome trim swept along the sides and hood, giving the car a dynamic, forward-looking presence. Distinctive Starfire badging and brightwork, including dual rocket hood ornaments, emphasized speed and glamour. The coupe body featured clean, flowing lines with a formal roofline and a long hood, giving it a dignified yet sporty stance. Inside, the Starfire sported luxurious appointments, such as leather seats, a full suite of gauges, and an advanced console-mounted transmission shifter, appealing to upscale buyers. The overall effect was of a car designed not just to move people, but to make a statement: loud, proud, and unmistakably futuristic. Performance and features. Under the hood, the 1963 Starfire was no slouch. Powered by a 394 cubic inch rocket V8, producing up to 330 horsepower. Offered with a smooth Hydra-Matic automatic transmission, standard power steering, and power brakes. Featured ride and handling calibrated for a balance of comfort and performance, befitting its personal luxury role. Available with options like air conditioning and upgraded stereo systems, enhancing its luxury appeal. The Starfire wasn't just stylish, it offered solid muscle under the hood to back up its looks. Market positioning and pricing. Despite its elegance and performance, the Starfire's price tag hovered around $4,000, a significant sum in 1963, placing it near Cadillac territory in terms of cost. This posed a problem. Oldsmobile was traditionally seen as a mid-tier General Motors brand, positioned below Cadillac and Buick in luxury. Buyers willing to spend $4,000 or more for a personal luxury coupe often preferred to pay the extra premium for a Cadillac Eldorado or a Buick Riviera, brands with a stronger luxury reputation. Meanwhile, the Starfire competed with the more affordable Ford Thunderbird, which had a cooler image among younger buyers. The result was a mismatch between price and brand prestige. Sales performance and buyer perception. Initial Starfire sales in 1961 and 1962 were encouraging, but by 1963, sales had slowed significantly. The car's futuristic styling polarized buyers. Some loved the bold chrome and space-age motifs, while others found it too flashy or gaudy. Many traditional Oldsmobile customers were not interested in a high-priced personal luxury coupe, and luxury buyers gravitated towards more prestigious nameplates. Dealers also struggled to market the Starfire effectively. Was it a muscle car? A luxury cruiser? The message was unclear. Ultimately, the Starfire didn't achieve the sales volume Oldsmobile hoped for, leading to its repositioning in subsequent years. Today, the 1963 Oldsmobile Starfire is appreciated by collectors for its bold styling and unique place in Oldsmobile history. Seen as a car that captured the optimistic, futuristic spirit of early 1960s America. Regarded as a personal luxury car that was ahead of its brand's usual market perception, paving the way for future luxury models within GM's portfolio. It remains a symbol of the challenges automakers faced when trying to move a brand upscale in a competitive market. The 1963 Oldsmobile Starfire illustrates how style and performance are not enough. Brand perception, pricing strategy, and clear marketing are equally crucial for success. Despite being a visually stunning and powerful car, the Starfire's luxury aspirations outpaced what buyers expected from Oldsmobile, limiting its appeal and sales. If you'd like, I can provide a detailed comparison of the Starfire's pricing, features, and market position versus contemporaries like the Cadillac Eldorado and Ford Thunderbird. That would offer a clearer picture of why the Starfire struggled despite its qualities.